This is an open letter for Mr. Jon Stewart. As always, a fan of your work. This is in regards to your interview with Miss or Mrs. Kathleen Hicks, Defense Department Undersecretary, Secretary. Um, Thank you for your work. Here's the thing with regard to that interview, Mr. Jon Stewart. First of all, it was clear that your idea was, hey, dear lady, what are you doing with the money that you're getting, because you're getting more than everybody else on the planet? What are you doing with that money? And Miss Hicks' idea was, never mind. It's not, your business, you peasant, to know what we are doing with that money. You're too much of a low life. You're a peasant. You don't need to know. You don't even understand what an audit is. So you go and play with your tail. But here's what you can do, you peasant. First of all, advertise so we can recruit more. Second of all, if you want us to take care of the soldiers, increase our budget. So on one hand, you keep saying, what are you doing with the money you already got? And she's saying, never mind that, you peasant, increase our budget if you want us to take care of the soldiers better. And you don't need to know what the department is doing with the money. Anyway, that was the gist of it. And that is pretty much how you would expect from the political appointees. You see, how it works in theory, in a democracy, how it works in theory is different than how it works in practice. In theory, it works in a way that says you think that the political appointees are appointed to oversee the civil servant in every department, to make sure they're accountable. But in reality, the political appointees, once they're appointed, the civil servants house train them, break them in, house train them, however you want to put it, and they, after house training them, these political appointees are given two jobs by the civil servants. Are given two jobs. One, ask for more budget, more money, doesn't matter what is the budget already. These political appointees are forced by their civil servants or are house trained by the civil servants of their department to go and ask for more money. One, two, to defend them. The civil servants house train these political appointees to defend them against any criticism. So you got the wrong people. Wrong girl. She's been house trained to do her job, ask for more money and defend the department. Who you should really think of, interviewing are those civil servants, the top brass, the civil servants at the head of those departments, because those are the guys who really know what's going on and should be responsible, should answer questions. Where's the money going? Anyway, that's beside the point. My point here is that if you really want to make sure the military service is a good service, becomes a good service, at the service of humanity, this whole business of all volunteer thing and anybody is looking for a job, please sign here and come and work for us, which again I don't understand, this mixing up of being a paid soldier is not exactly volunteering. It's sort of like saying the top executives of Microsoft are volunteering for the job. Yeah, of course they're volunteering for the job, but unless there's a pay, they will not do the job. They will go work for another corporation. We are all volunteering for the jobs that we have. That doesn't really define volunteer work. Volunteer work is work for free. If you accept to do a job without compensation, that would be, in my vocabulary, of course I could be wrong, English is my second language, so in my vocabulary, the way I understand the word volunteer, how it's defined, is work without expectation of compensation. But if a soldier signs up with the expectation of compensation, although the soldier is not forced to sign, but because it's the expectation of compensation, it no longer qualifies as volunteer work. So stop glorifying, glorifying this soldierhood as a volunteer and service. And no, it's a job. I'm sure if that same person who became a soldier would, in any country, in France, in Germany, in the fucking Britain, if that soldier would have found a job which paid a different job than being in the military, found a different job which paid twice as much than the military, the soldier would have, gone to that job and would have never become a soldier. 80%, not all. 20% are really, they want to do that. They want to, carry arms. But 80% are, if they had found a higher paying job with less hassle, which pays double, I'm sure they would have volunteered for that job. Anyway, my point is this. To solve all these problems, this is my answer to most of the problems that you're facing in Uncle Sam's land currently in the year 2023. Most of these problems can be solved with just one action. One. And that is to bring back the draft permanently. Not because you're at war, not because you want to go to war. In fact, if you bring back the draft, there is a less chance of going to war. And this draft, that is for man and woman, you say equality, fine. The draft must be established permanently for all countries, including Uncle Sam's land. Every young person reaching the age of 18, if they're not accepted in the college, they go straight to the military for 2 years. And if they're accepted in college, they go, after they finish their college, they go to a military. A lot of countries in the world are doing this. Unfortunately, some are not, including the system in Uncle Sam's land. Here is my reasoning behind why this is a necessity. To put it in a very short phrase, the military service imposed on every young person in the form of a draft, this military service hardens the individual and softens the military. Hardens the individual and softens the military. What do I mean by that? We already know what it means. Many have, recognized that what it means by hardening the individual. Hardening the individual means not only you come across physical hardship and that you have to deal with all of that, but also prepares you with dealing with the real society around you. Especially now, this mandatory military service is especially important in a heterogeneous country like United States, in which all colors and shapes and religions and complexions are available. For these people to later on be able to communicate with each other in the society and to at least a level understand each other, you need to force them in a room, force them to get along at least for a period of time. So after that period is over and they're no longer forced to be with each other, at least they have a clue of each other's mindset. What I see in American society today is that these people have lived separate lives, totally separate lives. They have gone to different schools because this is a rich school in in this area of California, or in this area of New York, or in this area of Tulsa, Oklahoma. This is the rich school, and there is the poor school, which mostly are not pink skins. There are other complexions, and they have different mindset. They come to have different mindset, different perspective, different way of seeing themselves in the society, and different way of seeing the society. Where do these motherfuckers come together? If there is no mandatory military service, there is no one place that they are forced to sit at the chow table and eat together and sleep in the same barracks and all of that, and train and help each other, and form partnership, forms groups to perform tasks. If these motherfuckers don't get to know each other, and if they have any fights, you rather them fighting, and if they have any misunderstandings and many fights, you rather them fighting and getting over their misunderstanding in a controlled environment, such as a barracks, when they're 18, when they're 20, then have them bring all that baggage and not go to the military service. Have them bring all that misunderstanding when they're 40, when they're 30, and armed in an uncontrolled environment on the streets. You don't want that. You want their misunderstandings and problems, issues to be confronted in a controlled environment in a barracks. So this is what it means by hardening the individual. And then hardening the individual in terms of, basic understanding of what is their expectation of the society from them. Bring him in the military and, just telling them how they have to be cooperative and good citizens and blah, 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 blah. Again, hardening the individual. A lot of things about how to wear your clothes, how to be clean, these are simple things that the school is not teaching. So mandatory military service, a draft, can teach them. And you have seen many good leaders have come out of this. These systems that are drafts, when you put everybody through the grinder, then from the other side you will receive good citizens. Not good, at least bearable, at least a little more citizens with their feet firmly on the ground. That's the part about hardening the individuals. And a lot of these, misgendering and not understanding their identity, a lot of these also, goes away when people, get their feet on the ground and, get familiar with the facts of life. Anyway, that's the easy part, that everybody understand what it means by hardening the individual. Now, what the second part of that phrase about the softening of the army? The draft will soften the army. Now, one can say that if somebody advocates for a draft, like me, they are pro-war. No, in fact, that's not it. I'm against war, and the draft is a way to prevent war. For the same reason, it's the way to prevent wars, unnecessary wars. For the same reason, I believe in the draft, that the top brass of the military don't believe in the draft, because the draft makes the military inefficient. Now, it's customary to brag about, we have the strongest, the most best military service, the military personnel and service that the planet has ever seen, and we are, fuck. Yeah, that's customary to say that. But here is an example that I can set and see why that is a problem. Having the best military is a problem. Imagine that there is a kitchen, and in this professional kitchen in a restaurant, there are 10 knives, just 10. And imagine that there's a busboy in this kitchen that has been given one of his jobs is that every morning when he comes in, his first job of the day is to sharpen one of these knives. They show him the knife and they say, you make sure this one knife is always sharp. If you have time left over after he's sharpening this knife, you can attend to the other 9 knives. But it's important to have this one knife sharpened. This one knife with a black handle. And the busboy understands this and does this every day. First thing in the morning, sharpen that one knife. If you have time left over, try to sharpen some other ones, but that one has to be sharpened. What happens? Anybody working in that kitchen, the first knife, when they want to perform any act with a knife, the first knife they go for is that knife that everybody knows is always sharp. Nobody even bothers to check out the other knives because there is a possibility they're not sharp, they're not workable, they don't, measure up. Well, it's the same thing with the departments. Education and housing and healthcare, all these other departments, State Department, dealing with foreign states, all these other departments, energy and infrastructure, all these transportation, all these other departments are like those other knives that they may get sharpened if there is anything left over, but that one knife we all know is sharp. That's like the military. It's the best military ever. But is that a good thing? It's the sharpest knife ever. But is that a good thing? Do you want everybody to go for that one knife every time, all the time, knowing that this is the one that they can count on? So every time there is a disaster, there's no question of the health department and the Red Cross and this. Mostly it's sort of like sending the military. Okay, there's a natural disaster, sending the military. There is somebody, on the other side of the world, we don't like sending the military. There is something over here is like sending the military. Yes, it's the sharpest tool, it's the sharpest knife, but you really don't want to concentrate all your resources under one roof, in one department, because then the other departments, the other knives are useless. The other departments, nobody even bothers trying to work with the other departments when they all know that, this is the military. You want intelligence, go to the military. You want action, go to the military. You want covert information, go to the military. You want anything you want, go to the military, because it's the sharpest knife in our kitchen. Well, that's very tempting. That's very tempting, because then, they say, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When you become so used to invoking the military, asking the military to do a lot of the heavy lifting, then military means killing people, means wars, means bombing, means doing force, means violence. So it's not, in my view, and it's not so good to have such an efficient military. Maybe some of this efficiency should go to healthcare, health department. Some of this efficiency, some of this should go to other departments because, sharpest knife in the kitchen gets all the jobs. And it's associated very much with violence. Military is associated very much with violence. The point is this, but the problem is the top brass of the military never wants a draft, exactly because of what I just explained, because it's inefficient, and not only is inefficient, the top brass doesn't want the draft because a lot of people who come in the military, this is what I mean when I say it, the military, the draft softens the military. A lot of these draftees are smart people, which usually, they have other options beside the military. They've either left MIT, graduated from MIT, and now they have to do their 2 years of military service, or they're heading to MIT later on in life, and now they're doing their 2 years of military service. Anyway, these are sharp individuals which, because they're not signing up for life as a non-commissioned officer, because they're signing as a commissioned officer for a short period of time, 2 years or so, they have nothing to lose, so they do dig for inefficiencies and corruptions. They don't mind exposing corruption and inefficiency. They don't mind asking questions of their superiors because it's a commissioned officer. He's there for 2 years. He's passed almost a year and a half. Because this is not his life's mission to stay in this military force, he asks questions. If he sees something happening, some illogical thing happening, something stupid happening, something that doesn't make sense, some corruption, anything that he sees not good, he reports, he questions, he asks, he talks about it, he goes on the street, protests about it, whether after the military service or during the military service. The point is this: yes, efficiency comes down if you have everybody asking questions in the military just because, the guy is lieutenant, but he's a sharp motherfucker who just graduated from a top university. He has a brain, he asks questions, and he doesn't mind, he doesn't care for his career because this is not his career. His career is going to be something else. He doesn't see himself as being permanently in the military force. So he doesn't mind asking questions. He doesn't mind being a bad guy. He doesn't mind, not advancing in rank because he's just there in 2 years. The rest, those who are there as a job in the military, the most important thing is they're worried about their paycheck. They're worried about not advancing in rank and getting a bigger paycheck or whatever. Therefore, nobody asks questions. Nobody rocks the boat. Nobody rocks the boat. If you want efficiency in the military, you have to bring back the draft. There are intelligent people are forced into the military service, and they will rock the boat, make sure inefficiencies are not covered up. This is what I mean with softens the army, and the whole idea of asking questions, protesting towards your superior, is exactly what prevents unnecessary wars from taking place. Or if unnecessary wars does take place, you're going to have a pushback. And those wars end don't drag for 20, 30 years. They end within short time spans because, these forced military members, eventually they leave the military, then they go, they tell people what they saw, what they have done, eventually there's protests, and so the war is shortcut. The war is cut short. So the point is this: you want a softer military. You don't want the best damn military in the world. Why not say our healthcare system is the best damn healthcare system in the world that cures every one of our citizens of all their ills? You know, you can, why not brag about your healthcare that takes care of all citizens? Why not brag about your education system that is the best damn educational system in this world that, you know, teaches everyone everything? I mean, you can, why keep bragging about the military service? That is the most efficient, the best, this. Why not, you know, brag about the healthcare service, the education service, the housing? Why not brag about things that don't involve violence? That don't cause catastrophe for other peoples on this planet and the members of the military. You know, it's all about death and destruction, where health and education is all about production. I don't understand this paranoia that, you know, this paranoia that forces all this wealth towards military. Another thing that helped this military service will help with your societies, and these may help somewhat with, you know, the genders and sexual identities and all of that, is that I feel that in the and a lot of these, you know, young urban youth who tend to be a bit loud and obnoxious and violent at times, the military helps with that too. It's sort of like in the military service, when it's a draft and everyone has to go, is a place where harder man military service makes harder man softer and softer man harder. So you basically get an average there. What I mean is, you know, a hard-headed individual from some rough neighborhood, when he's drafted into the military service, he's basically, you know, there is a master sergeant there who's gonna knock him out a few sizes, and he's going to, you know, bring him down to the ground. There is somebody there to, you know, bring him down to the ground and make him understand that he is a human being just like the rest of us, and not be so, you know, arrogant and, you know, ignorant and arrogant and violent and all of that. You know, that's in regards to, you know, urban youth. And with regards to, you know, the what in the old days we used to call sissies, these sissies, once they, you know, go to the military, again, the same master sergeant is going to, you know, the whole environment is going to make these folks a little rougher, a little tougher. You know, shows their place. At least, even if they are not going to be, you know, if they're not going to be a man's man, at least they understand that, okay, this is absolutely not my thing, and I'm this and not that. They at least they figure out, within 2 years of military service, they figure out where they stand, whether this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle. But it would be for sure for life. And I'm sorry, but I think the Peace Corps and the AmeriCorps and this Corps and that, no, that just doesn't cut it. Because it's good to have them. If somebody finishes their military service and they want to continue, they should continue after 2 years of mandatory military service. They want to continue still, you know, they like it. Either they can stay in the army, or they can stay in the military, or they can go to Peace Corps after the military service, not instead of the military service. Because, you know, then you will find a few rough, tough individuals end up in the army and the sissies end up in the Peace Corps. You don't want that. You want everybody under the same fucking roof to solve their issues with each other right under in the same barracks. Again, as I said, only the top echelon of the military is going to be against this, because they don't want to answer, to smart aleck questions from these smart draftees who just came from a college or a university. They've studied, they're learned, they come in, they ask questions, and the top brass doesn't want that. But if you want accountability, you want that. As a society, if you want accountability from the top brass, you want these smart individuals go in, specifically because they're not going in for life, they're going in for a short time of 2 years. Therefore, they're not scared of asking questions. They're not scared of pissing off their superiors. Therefore, you root out corruption. Just by a simple act of drafting everybody in the military service. Efficiency comes down, yes. The military becomes a little softer, yes. But that's all good. On the other hand, your society becomes a little more cohesive because everybody have solved their issues. When they were in the barracks, a lot of their issues, they have solved a lot of their issues while they were under the same roof in the barracks, the different layers of your society. It makes your man harder, it makes your woman harder, it makes it harder in terms of, their feet firmly on the ground. And it makes the military less corrupt, more accountable. What's wrong with that? Efficiency, well, if it's not, if the president doesn't think that he can, efficiently invade Iraq in a matter of weeks and then pull out, if he doesn't think it's going to be an efficient job, he will not carry it out. You want a sloppy military. And here's the thing, you cheap the nuclear arsenal. The nuclear arsenal has one job, defense. That's no problem. The nuclear arsenal is to make sure you're not attacked. The homeland is not attacked. That goes without question. Fine. In fact, I think every country in this planet should have a nuclear arsenal. Then that's a for sure sign that these violent apes will not overrun each other's borders. But that's a defensive measure. Nuclear arsenal is a defensive measure. So you're sure your homeland is not going to be overrun. But therefore, you don't need an efficient military. Because an efficient military, a very efficient military, is like the sharpest knife in the kitchen. Everybody wants to use it all the time. So please, if you have in conclusion, I'd like to say, if you have a platform, please advocate for mandatory military service. It's both good for the society. It's good for the. And I mean, just imagine two individuals, John Kerry and George Bush. John Kerry went to Vietnam, came back, and he actually saw what's going on, and he testified before the Congress of the bullshit taking place over there, and all the unnecessary violence, unnecessary evil that being implemented in East Asia. And then George W. Bush, who went to the military, had to sign up, but somehow stayed home and played billiard and drank, but then 20, 30, 40 years later, he took he started two wars. I have a feeling because he never really was involved in any war. If George W. Bush had gone to Vietnam, I have a feeling he wouldn't have started two wars under his watch, because he would have a better understanding of what a war is. Yeah, I think every country on this planet should have a draft, not a Peace Corps, not this corps, that corps. No, no, no. Those are fine, but after the military service. But everybody should have to go to the military service, man and woman, just to make sure before these folks enter a society, they have their feet firmly on the ground, and with them being in the military, you make sure there are some smart people at the table who are not afraid of protesting, who are not afraid of asking questions of their superiors, because they know they're there for only a short period of time, and they're not afraid.